Hello everybody, and thank you for joining today's webinar. We have some really great content today. I want to encourage everyone to make this interactive. So as the webinar is happening, if you have any questions at all that you want to ask our expert presenter, please go ahead and type it into the chat window that appears on your screen. And at the end of the webinar, we're going to have a Q&A session where we'll do our very best to answer all of those questions. Also, at the end of today's webinar, an exit survey will appear on your screen, and we would very much love to get your feedback on how today's session went. Also, for those that are wondering, this webinar is being recorded, and there will be an on-demand version made available next week, and you will receive an email with a link to view that later on as well. With that, I want to introduce myself. My name is Robert Burko, President of Elite Digital, and I will be your moderator for today. Our expert presenter is Matthew Leppanen, who is the Director of Product Management. He has some really amazing content to share with all of you today. And with that, I will pass it over to Matthew to get started with the show.
Thank you, Robert, and welcome everyone, both on the East Coast, Central, and West Coast. So good morning to some and good afternoon to others. I'm going to walk you through our Rogers Unison product and show you some live demos of some of the functions that we have available. And if you'd like to know more, we'll talk at the end of this on how you can discover more information around Rogers Unison. To start, we do want to make this interactive in a couple different ways. One of the things that we're going to be doing is a live text poll. This is a completely anonymous poll that you're going to be able to participate in. To register for it, you need to use your mobile phone. Register by sending a text message to the phone number 37607. So you just type real time in, and then once you hit send, you'll actually receive a successfully joined the real time session. So again, send a text message to phone number 37607, and you put the word real time in your subject or in the content and hit send, and you'll receive back a registration. So I'll give everyone a minute to do that. It is completely anonymous. I encourage everyone to participate because it will help shape the content of this webinar, and that way we can have a discussion that's reflective of everyone in the audience and your opinions on some of the subject matter. To get started, I'm actually going to start with the text poll. To lay the foundation, I'd like to know how important is mobility to your business. So what you're going to do, again, register by sending a text to 37607 real time is the word you put in. Once you've registered, you're going to answer either A, B, C, or D and hit send, and your answers will come in. You can start seeing on the screen, we've got some live answers coming in. So far, it looks like most people think that mobility is critical to their business. We've got important being the second one right now. Some are feeling it's nice to have. So far, nobody is saying they don't need it. We'll give everyone a minute or two so we can get all of the opinions viewed in here, because I think this is going to be interesting because, you know, our subject today is around embracing the modern mobile workforce. And if mobility is important to us, then we need to really make sure we're doing the right kind of investments and choices into our technology to support those mobile workers. So we're looking at 68% critical, 28% important, and 4% nice to have. It looks like we might be sticking with a trend, Robert. I'm seeing...
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't seem like anybody is sitting in the audience saying this is not needed. Seems to be definitely overwhelming that people feel this is critical. And thank you for everybody for voting here. It definitely makes it more interactive, and it's fun to see and get a pulse on what the audience is thinking. Matthew, I mean, what do you think? Has this changed over time? If we did this a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, do you think it would have been any different?
Oh, absolutely. I know from our own results internally here at Rogers, we've seen a massive increase in demand on mobility services for our enterprise and small business customers across the country, from public sector, private sector, from all verticals. We've seen huge gains in our accounts where customers are saying, listen, I need to add more mobility. I really need to enable my employees to be able to work from anywhere. And so this is a trend that we're anticipating will continue to grow in Canada. We know on the consumer side, we're about close to 100% penetration on mobile services when you combine all of, mobile phones, tablets, and everything else that's connected with a SIM card. When you factor in business communications, that's really going to push us up over 100% penetration within Canada, because some people like to have a different device for personal versus business. So again, if you want to make sure you register for the next poll, All you have to do is send a text message to phone number 37607, and the registration word is real-time, R-E-A-L-T-I-M-E, and I'm going to have a second poll near the end of this presentation. I'm going to move forward, so keeping in mind that 68% of our audience thinks it's critical for mobility, and 28% think it's important. So the overwhelming majority needs to be thinking about mobility and how they're going to be managing their workforce going forward. In fact, we actually at Rogers did some research that led our development and our strategy around what we're doing with Unison. And some of the research that we looked at was the impact of mobility usage throughout our day. We wanted to see if there's a delineation between personal use versus business use, because if there is, what we need to do as a service provider is make sure we're providing the technology and the tools that help separate personal from business use. But if we see a blending between the usage patterns between day and night, regardless, of when that's happening, that's really important for us to make sure we're providing the tools that allow people to be able to work on a personal or a business level at any time. And what this research here shows us is the percentage of time where eyeballs are on a smartphone screen. And what came out abundantly clear in this research was that we need to support our customers to be able to work anytime during the day or night. We're very busy now in our personal and our business lives, and no longer do we want to just work on a confined 9 to 5 and only use our business technology then, because sometimes we might actually have to go pick up a child from school, do a doctor's appointment, or perhaps we're even stuck in traffic and our work day and our personal day starts blending together. And that means sometimes we start our work day from the kitchen table while we're having breakfast with the family, or we might actually be ending our work day in bed, closing off those last few emails or getting prepared for the next day and checking our calendar. And so what we've done at Rogers is make sure we're embracing technology in such a way that our customers are going to be able to work from anywhere during the day, during the night, from any country in the world using mobile-based technology through unified communications. What we also looked at were some trends around how people are working. 70% of employees within Canada were identified through a survey that was completed that they're mobile in their workday in some capacity. Now, mobile can be within an office environment, so they're not stationary at a desk, but they're moving from meeting to meeting in different physical workspaces. It could also mean that they're mobile between actual physical offices. It could be across the country, it could be across the city, or sometimes just across the road. Mobility also means that they're working from, say, a Starbucks, in their car, or at that kitchen table. What's really interesting about that research when we looked at it is that that trend is expected to go well over 80% by next year. So it's growing at a tremendous rate. What we also know is that we don't have in the industry 70% of our business customers, or our business customers aren't giving 70% of their employees mobile technology. Most workers are not provided with a mobile phone or a laptop. Usually it's reserved for certain levels of management only, and we know that those levels of management don't equate for 70% of the workforce. I'll come back to what that could mean in a second. What we also looked at was the physical workspace that employees were utilizing. In Canada, we've seen explosive growth within our urban environments and as well as within our suburban environments, and even in some of the near urban regions as well, where more and more businesses are having to increase the size of their workspaces, add additional office floors, or open up another building completely. But what the research indicated to us is that 50% of the cubicles are empty at any given time. So you could actually be at 100% capacity where every cubicle is assigned, but you're only utilizing 50% of those cubicles at any given time. And that's because half of your employees are choosing to work elsewhere, or they need to work elsewhere throughout their workday. So that means you're using up physical workspace, you're using up an actual desk environment that you've paid for and constructed, and you're also delivering technology to that desk, whether it's data technology or it's voice technology for someone to work there, yet they're not utilizing that. So it provides some risk factors that we need to consider. Security. If 50% of your workforce or 70% of your workforce isn't provided with the mobile technology to securely work from anywhere, how is data being secured? And who's really monitoring their access? How is the employee being able to access the data that they need? Are they using their own personal device and maybe sharing information over their own personal device and their personal email? Are they exporting that information outside of the work environment? What does this mean from a public relations perspective? So what would actually happen if any information were entered the public domain because it's not being controlled within the standard IT mechanisms of an organization? From a cost perspective, there could be a lot of abandonment of services, especially if you have physical phones sitting on a desk and you've also paid for Ethernet drops or even desktop computers that aren't mobile. Is that technology being abandoned? And think about the real estate consumption that's being used for those employees that are no longer sitting there and working at their desk, the 50 percentile, especially when you need to add another floor or add another office. And then finally, productivity. How do you actually measure productivity if employees aren't using the tools being provided by the company? And how do you make changes for improvement? These are some really important factors that we need to think about when we're looking at a mobile workforce. And most of us on this webinar have identified that mobility is a really important factor of their business. So understanding that means that we also have to put into practice the tools and technology that are going to help support our employees to be more mobile while still giving the controls around security and costs and productivity that are really important in our business environments. You know, we introduced Rogers Unison mid last year. It is Canada's only truly mobile communication system. We believe that with Unison, we're going to be fostering true collaboration productivity, and I'll show you how we're going to be able to do that. And what I call true collaboration and productivity is not around hiding behind technology through an instant messaging and presence application or using web conferencing. Those are really important tools for collaboration and productivity. But true collaboration is really when you can get two employees to stand up, get out of their cubicle, maybe get on a whiteboard and solve a business problem together by analyzing some of the information that they're provided and move to some decision-making factors that are going to be important for driving your business forward going in the future. We also believe that Unison is enabling our customers to be much more nimble so they can grow and contract out as needed. And it also will significantly reduce your cost and infrastructure footprint. So let me show you how some of these things are going to happen. First, I'll tell you a little bit more about Unison, and then I'm going to get actually into some live demo for you. First, what we've done is with Rogers Unison, we've actually integrated the unified communication platform into our mobile IMS core. And that allows us to deliver our technology to any type of device that an employee wants to use at any time of the day. So you could be using traditional IP phones sitting on a desktop. You can be using soft phones, say on a desktop computer like I'm using right now, or it could be on a tablet, or a soft phone even on a smartphone. Or you can even natively use your mobile phone. When I say natively use your mobile phone, I mean the green button that comes standard with your phone without having to launch another application. And with Rogers Unison, we provide a seamless way of delivering your unified communications to any one of these devices. It allows your employees to pick and choose the device that's going to be more productive for them. And they can also mix and match these. So some employees who are, say, power users and need the best of everything, they can actually use IP phones, soft phones, and mobile phones in a combination. So whatever works best for them in that moment. Rogers Unison is a full cloud-based technology. It's within the Rogers core network, like I mentioned. It's geo-redundant in an active state, allowing our customers to be able to get the peace of mind that it's being fully managed on their behalf. So they're not having to worry about the costs that come with procuring hardware, software licensing, all of the maintenance, because it is cloud-based and delivered as a service by Rogers to you. You have a common telephony experience across any devices I mentioned. And when I also talk about common telephony experience, I also mean a common experience across any network. That means your employees are able to communicate over 2G, 3G, voice over LTE, voice over Wi-Fi, using an internet access network, a private MPLS network, or they could be using a dedicated private Ethernet drop. All of those different types of access networks are used to deliver our Unison technology to ensure that your unified communications is being handled in any situation, whether you're in Canada or whether you're traveling abroad. It means that you're going to be able to still continue to leverage your technology from wherever in the world you are from any device. It is managed by a full professional services team. The way we onboard you as a customer will be by a dedicated team that knows Unison inside and out. Same thing with your troubleshooting. But you also get the benefits, since we are integrated into our mobile network, with Rogers having the longest history in mobile technology in this country, especially in GSM. You've got the best engineering team possible that's there to support you should there ever be an issue in your future delivery of your service. It does have all the key features that you'd expect out of an office phone system, but we've experienced some trends since we've launched this where many of our customers are starting to drop some of the traditional ways of using a phone system because we can deliver the technology in a different way. No longer do you need to necessarily park a call because you need to then get someone to walk over to a stationary phone, because we can deliver the phone call to an individual directly in their pocket wherever they are. So it's not to say we aren't doing call park, but it's just a different way of actually delivering an experience to your employees or to your customers that makes you rethink some of those features and functions that you would have traditionally been using in your old phone system. What's important to remember too, when I talk about mobile calls, it does not mean that you need to use an app. So we're not using your data plan. We're also not forcing an employee to change how they actually make and receive calls on their mobile phone. The way you make a phone call today on your mobile phone will continue to be the same way you make a phone call tomorrow on your mobile phone. And with Unison, we support Android, iOS, Blackberries, or even feature phones like a traditional flip phone, or you could be using a specialized ruggedized device in your business. Regardless of any hardware type, the service works over its standard phone function without the need of an app. We have 3 different user types that we believe that 100% of your employees will roll up to for Unison. The first is your mobile user. So these are people who are fully mobile throughout their workday. Think about construction crews, maintenance teams, salespeople, or maybe it's those 50% of people who aren't in their cubicle because they're very mobile in their workday and they don't want to have to use fixed telephony anymore. So they're going to be using just their mobile phone. They don't want a soft phone and they don't want to use an IP phone. The opposite end of the spectrum is your office user. So these are your traditional in-office cubicle-based employees, or perhaps maybe even a teleworker sitting at home, and they're going to be very stationary in their workforce, in the way they work. Call center agents, receptionists, they often roll up to this. So these individuals will be using IP phones and soft phone combinations, which require fixed network technology for the delivery of their service. Now, the one that's actually very interesting, which I believe is going to be our most popular long-term for our customers, is our hybrid user. The hybrid user has both a mobile phone and they want to have the service delivered like the mobile user, but they also have the need of fixed technology because frequently they're going to be on conference calls and using a headset onto a computer or using an IP phone is more convenient for them. And so your hybrid user is much more your power user, and they're going to be using multiple devices between a mobile phone, soft phones, and IP phones because they're sometimes in the office, but they're frequently also on the road or between offices. And these individuals, they're tired of managing multiple phone numbers with multiple voicemails, so we're able to simplify it all for them with one phone number and one voicemail box. So at Rogers, we believe that we're actually solving a lot of problems with Unison. First is that there's a lot of unnecessary cost that's eliminated because no longer are you having to pay for 2 different services, one for your mobile and one for your fixed technology. You don't need to worry about the infrastructure and the maintenance costs that come along with traditional ways of delivering your unified communications. And you don't need to worry about the abandonment of technology because employees are no longer sitting at their physical desk. You're delivering the technology in their pocket wherever they are. It also eliminates a lot of unnecessary complication where people don't need to manage multiple phone numbers and multiple lines. They don't need to be managing complex applications if they can use their phone's native phone functions, which really simplifies the user experience and change management. And overall as well, we believe we're solving the control issue because you're able to manage all of your telephony off of one platform, whether it's mobile-based or fixed-based. And when you get into compliance, you're now into one simple platform, and as we add in more functions such as call recording in our roadmap, it means that you're also able to start adding in call recording for your mobile calls, which really changes the way you can start managing your business. Some of the key benefits: controlled cost. I think that one's pretty clear in terms of what it does because you're no longer having to pay for the platforms up front, and you're also getting a lower monthly cost than you would off of competing cloud-based platforms. It's a very simple and intuitive user experience, and I'll show you what that looks like. And because mobility is a growing factor, moving towards more and more adoption within the business environment, it means that you're future-proofing your business by choosing Unison because you're actually taking and embracing mobility early on, and that way should the time come when you need to go 100% mobile for your organization, you've already got the tools and technology to support that roadmap. And it is fully adaptable. I mentioned that the service works off of any device, any network across the world. And 100% of the calls that you do over any of those networks are also going to be encrypted with TLS. And that's providing your business with greater security than you would get off of any other mobile service or any other cloud-based service within Canada. Now I'm going to actually walk you through some of the features, and I'll be switching screens as I do some of these live demos. So just bear with me as I change some of the screens. First feature I want to review with you is the one number across all devices. So this is an example of a setup that someone can have as a hybrid user. The first, starting on the left-hand side of the screen, you have an iPhone, and you can see that I'm using here the native green button function on the iPhone, so no app needed. So this user has one phone number across their mobile phone. They then have a soft phone sitting on a tablet in the middle. They also have a soft phone on their desktop computer, and they also have an IP phone. That soft phone or IP phone or iPhone are all using the exact same phone number. So if I actually call their one single phone number, all of these devices will ring at the same time, and the employee can choose which device they want to answer at any given time that works more effectively for them. So I could be in the car and I'm going to answer the phone using my mobile and my car's Bluetooth. And when I walk into the office, perhaps I want to use my IP phone, and then maybe I need to actually go to a meeting and I want to move it over to a soft phone and use my office Wi-Fi as I'm moving over to that meeting, but continue my conversation. You can keep doing that, and I'll show you how that works in just one second. But we believe that this is a very powerful way that the service works. And the benefit here is that if you don't answer the call, your call treatment, say you turned on call forwarding, the call will forward to wherever you've sent it, and you don't need to do it for each device. You're doing it from the network in the cloud. If it goes to voicemail, it's going to go to one voicemail box, and when that call is answered, you'll then get a WAV file coming into your inbox in your email, and you can listen to that from any device as well. And so now you're not listening to multiple voicemails on multiple devices from multiple phone numbers. It's all centralized because you have one phone number across all devices. Here's an example of how the call pull feature works when you have one number across all devices. First, I'll give you the example. I started my call in the car on the way to work. I'm stuck in traffic, and I need to be on a conference call. So I'm going to start that conference call. When I walk into the office, though, I want to move that call to another device because it's going to be more convenient for me. I need to be able to type with both hands and operate a mouse. So I'm going to pull the call over to my my soft phone. And then maybe actually the soft phone is not as convenient now because I need to start doing share my screen for a presentation. So I'll pull the call over to my IP phone. And then I can pull the call over to another soft phone or even to my mobile phone directly. Using the call pull feature, it allows you to seamlessly move the call from device to device, and the party that you're having a call with will not be interrupted. So you could be on a conference call and nobody will hear that you've actually switched devices, and you no longer get those annoying beeps of someone joining and leaving the conference. So let me show you an example. What I'm going to do is pull up the soft phone. So here I have a soft phone for one of the users here in the business, and I'm going to call this user, and I'll show you that first you'll hear the call ringing, and I'm going to answer it on the mobile device, and then after the mobile device, I'll answer the call. I'll move the call over to the other device. So first I'm going to call. So I'm calling from one device over to one of the employees, and you'll see the soft phone ring. So the soft phone is ringing on the desktop application, and I can either answer it there or I can answer it on my other device. I'm going to answer the call on my iPhone, which you would have heard the iPhone ringing, and you can see the call stopped ringing here on this device. Now that I'm actually on the call, and perhaps I've walked into the office, or maybe I'm now at home and I want to use my computer, I can go here and use the call pull feature. I'm pulling the call over, and now it's actively here on my actual desktop using my soft phone. Same thing can happen with the IP phone, or I can pull it back over, and I've just pulled it over back to my iPhone so I can walk out of the office and continue the call from my car on the way to work. So that's a really effective way that you can drive productivity within your organization and give a seamless experience for how your employees are going to be communicating over any device, and giving those power users the best of all tools possible. Now, some people have asked me, as I've presented this, well, what about my business phone numbers? It's really great that we can have one phone number, but we have a lot of intellectual property associated with my old business phone number. It's on my business cards. It's listed on our corporate directory. Perhaps it's even on a website. And I don't want to have to actually get rid of that phone number because a lot of my business contacts still call me on it, even though they also have my mobile phone number. Well, that's okay. We have a great feature called dual persona. So you're able to still have one phone number for all your devices, but you can keep your old phone system phone number by moving over to Unison. So you have your mobile phone number and you have your dual persona phone number. And that dual persona phone number will mean that anyone that actually calls you on either phone number, it will ring all of your devices and you answer the phone that is more convenient for you. And you can modify which phone number you're using for your outbound call display. So if you want one individual to see your mobile phone number, you can present that one, and another individual, you can present your old business phone number. It allows you to keep your phone numbers while cutting the cord and going completely in the cloud with Unison and not have to worry about sacrificing any of the things you've had. So here actually in the portal is a screenshot of the portal, and you can see where the number 1 is, that me as a user, I have 2 phone numbers. One is a 647 phone number, which is my mobile, and I also have a business line in the 613 area code, so they don't have to be in the same area. You can actually change your dual persona phone number using the portal. You can also do it on the self-serve app, which is through the soft phone or on the desktop version of the soft phone. So here we have the show my caller ID, and I can toggle between my outbound call display between my mobile number and my dual persona number directly on the application, and that's desktop, tablet, or smartphone. Or I can also do it directly on my phone using a pound code. So I can change to my mobile number using pound 30 or change to my business phone number using pound 29. All I do is enter pound 30 and hit send, and I'll receive a prompt saying that my phone number has now been changed to a business phone number. I'll give you an example here. I'm going to do it directly on my own personal work phone.
ID presentation has been set to your mobile phone's number. Thank you.
So now every single call that I make, if I called Robert right now, he would see my mobile phone number. However, if I now do the other pound code,
Line ID presentation has been set to your business phone's number. Thank you. Line ID presentation has been set to your business phone's number. Thank you.
now every time I call Robert, he's going to be seeing my business phone number on my outbound call display. So that gives me the power as an employee to be able to change my phone number at any given time. That way I can make sure I'm managing the experience that I want the end call, the receiver of the call to have, and I can do that separation of business versus personal while completely cutting the cord and embracing mobility. Next feature I want to overview is extension dialing, which is pretty standard. But when you think about in a mobile environment, you don't want to sacrifice your extensions because this is often how many of us communicate. Even though on a mobile phone, we often use our own phone directory, there might be individuals that you're very familiar with their extension, and it's a faster way for you to call. Well, we can support that within Unison as well. In this example here, you can see that you can do an extension dial, which here the 4-digit code is 6440. You just dial those 4-digit numbers and hit send, and your call is going to be made directly to that user's extension. You can do it on a soft phone dialing 6440 and hit send as well, or you can do it on the IP phone by dialing the same 4-digit extension. If that was your own extension, anyone that dials it, all of those devices will be ringing as well because we are able to support the 4-digit extension dialing both inbound and outbound to any of the employees on any device. The next feature I'd like to show you is our receptionist. The receptionist is a full web-based application. You can see from the screenshot here, and I'll show you a live working version of this. It works over any supported browser. So it allows the receptionist to really work from anywhere in the world. This is a great example from a business continuity. Should there be a reason why a receptionist would not be able to come to work for the day, even though he or she is physically able to work, they're just not able to come into work. It allows them to be able to continue their productivity and keep your business up and running by working from anywhere, even from their own kitchen table. All they need to do is make sure that they have a phone on Unison, and they also have the computer and ported URL with the appropriate tools to be able to log in. So it's fully web-based, accessible on the browser. Here's an example from our self-serve portal with a link over to the actual receptionist application. Once they actually launch the application, it's single sign-on to all of their Unison IDs. You can see, again, this is a web-based URL. So number 1 is where we've got the URL. Section number 2 is where all of the call control information, I'll show you a live working version of this. That's where all the live calls would be managed, and just below is where conference calls would be managed. And then section 3 is where the receptionist will be able to control all of the different panes. So he or she can customize different panes. Perhaps they want to have their favorites pane where it's the key people that they frequently transfer calls to. Maybe there's also a partner pane where they have, catering services or suppliers or other things that frequently need to be called. And the section 4 is where then all of those employees that they're monitoring, they can see the status of all of the users. In this case, you can see that 4 of the employees are green and they're available to receive a call should one need to be transferred. Meanwhile, user number 5 here has an orange status, meaning that they're actually in the process of making or receiving a call. What I'm going to do now is actually show you our reception console working live. So here's our live reception console. Again, here in this pane in the upper left corner is where my incoming calls would actually come in on. And so if I show you actually a call coming in, I'm going to just call the receptionist right now so you can see this live, and allows you then to be able to see how the calls appear for the individual user. So call is just about to come in live for the receptionist. And you can see there's a call coming in. The soft phone is ringing and the mobile phone in the background. And I've answered the call on the soft phone. I could be using an IP phone. In this case, I could have even answered it on a mobile phone. And now I can actually take this call and I can do things like a drag and drop to transfer it to another employee. And now you can see my own soft phone is ringing now. I'm going to hang up so we don't have to hear the phone ringing for myself. But you can see that now a receptionist is able to manage users wherever they need to be. So it could be a snowstorm, maybe you're doing office construction or you're in a move cycle, or perhaps maybe something's actually happened in your work environment and employees can't work there physically. You now have a receptionist who's able to work from anywhere in the world. What the receptionist is also able to do, which is extremely powerful when you do a mobile network integration, is the receptionist can actually monitor the status of any employee regardless of where they are in the world. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to place a phone call to Tom Davis. So you can see Tom Davis is available right here. I can actually call him live from the receptionist. But if I call Tom Davis, you'll see that Tom's call status is going to start changing. So you can see right now a call is ringing. I'm logged in on my soft phone as Tom Davis. I'm actually going to answer this call on the mobile phone. So Tom Davis is now on a call on a mobile phone. Tom could be in China on business travel. Maybe he's at one of the other sales offices across the country and he's on a call. Well, the receptionist can actually see the state of Tom Davis and choose whether he or she's going to transfer a call over to Tom, because now you have actually the visibility into every single call that Tom is doing. So Tom's on his mobile phone, and previously on your old solution, if Tom was using his mobile phone, the receptionist would have no idea. Just like executive assistants or anyone else that does call monitoring for other individuals, when someone's on a mobile phone and it's not part of Unison, they would not have any clue that that individual is on a call. And so it would make it very difficult to make decisions on where to transfer calls to from either a customer experience or a productivity standpoint. But now you give the power, and you can also see here, we have functions such as barge in. So if there's a real emergency, perhaps it's an important phone call an executive needs to take due to an emergency happening in the business, the receptionist has the ability to barge in on a call, even if it's a mobile call, to interrupt it to ensure that that business is being taken care of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, regardless of where in the world the employee is working. So next, I'm going to show you a little bit around our portal. So we have a portal that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for all employees. A couple things I'd like to point out. First, at number 1, you can see that this is a web-based, again, from any compatible browser. You're able to log in 24 hours a day, single sign-on to all of your Rogers services, where you're able to manage your Unison account. Only your administrators will have access to make some of the changes from an administrative standpoint, like modifying an auto attendant or creating a hunt group, or even logging in to change settings for one of your employees or resetting passwords. Individual employees will only be able to manage their own individual features, such as changing their outbound call display, updating their 911 address information, using call forwarding, call waiting, or any other user features. At number 2, you can see here's a section where as an administrator, you're able to manage all of your employees. You can set their 911 information on their behalf as well to ensure that we remain fully CRTC compliant. And down below is where you would make other changes. Number 3, you can see we've got a live link to our support site where we have videos for how to, so 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, your employees, whether it's from an administrative standpoint or from an individual user, can get all of the guides as well as videos on step-by-step on how to actually use a lot of the functions and features of Unison. And at number 4, you can see there's a live link for all employees. They can actually do a live chat with our technical support team during our standard technical support hours. And that's a real great way that if any of your employees, whether it's from an administrative perspective or an individual user, can get the help and support that they need from one of our live Rogers support technicians who's fully trained on Unison to ensure that your business never skips a beat. In the portal, we've made it so simple and intuitive to be able to set up and manage your services. We've created 4 simple steps for creating or modifying an auto attendant, setting things like your business hours, creating your phone menu of where the calls are going to go to, recording or uploading your greetings, and then reviewing your changes and hitting submit. It's that simple, 4 simple steps. What I've actually got here logged in is an example of the portal. So this one is logged in, and this is setting up as administrator, and I'm on our welcome screen, which you can eliminate and never see again if you so choose. And here is a live view of where I can actually manage the users, their 911, modify the auto attendants, or modify the hunt groups. If I click on an auto attendant to manage, so I'm just going to go back to the presentation here, but you can see this is where I was going to modify the auto attendant, and this is actually the same auto attendant that I was just trying to modify, called Martin Overflow Auto Attendant. So you can have access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and if an employee leaves it logged in too long, we do freeze it out. That way, should someone accidentally come to a computer, they no longer have access to make the changes to your account. So now I'm actually going to do the last text poll that I'd like everyone to participate in. And again, if you've not had a chance to do the text poll, you can first register by sending a text message to phone number 37607, and the word you're going to send in your text poll to register is the word real time, and then you'll receive a confirmation that you've registered. If you've already registered, you do not need to register again, but it's okay if you do. So let everyone register that did not participate. And again, like I said at the beginning, this is 100% anonymous. We cannot see what an individual's own personal response is, but it only helps facilitate some of the conversation. So the question that is for this poll is, how likely is your business going to ensure mobility as part of your unified communication solution going forward? If you think it's very likely, send a text message to 37607 and hit A and hit send. B for somewhat likely, or C, not likely. And we'll give a few minutes to allow all the respondents to have their views enter. And you can see so far, very likely is coming out strong. Similar percentage that we had in our first question. I think, Robert, it was at 68% as our final number that we had.
Yeah, that was way ahead, and it's always, I love seeing these real-time horse races as everybody votes here. It's always great, and it's interesting to see that on the first poll, it was an overwhelming majority at the top as well, and here we are at 62%, again, coming in at very likely.
Yeah, so maybe a little bit more balanced between somewhat likely and not likely. And you know, each business operates very differently, or an individual's view on how they want to communicate is going to be very different. But what's very clear here, though, is that mobility is not only an important part of communications for business, but also that now it is an important part of the unified communications framework, and that most of our customers and colleagues are feeling that they need to look at mobility for the unified communications.
And let me ask you this, Matthew. On the last poll, I actually asked you, if we had done this a couple of years ago, how would it be different? So looking at these numbers now, what I'm wondering is, if we did this again next year, here we are in 2018 or 2019, where do you think the trend is going to go if we did this poll in those future years?
I believe in 2018, what we would see is that 62% will probably be jumping well into the 70s. By 2019, it will probably be entering the 80s, and by 2020, especially as 5G technology really starts to enter into the domain, what we'll be moving towards is 100% of respondents will be marking mobility being important for them, because with the power of 5G is where we are really going to see the explosive growth of things such as Internet of Things, where the concepts of the connected workforce and all the amazing technology that we currently enjoy through fixed networks will be entering into the mobile networks as we move to gigabit speeds over mobility. So from 2020 onwards, we're really going to see a mobile transformation in everything that we do in both our business and our personal lives, the way we interact with our friends, our families, with cities, with office buildings, will be 100% mobility. So I believe that actually that's going to be 100% by that time, and that's why we state that Unison is actually helping to future-proof your business, because that's the trend that we're all marching towards, and I'd rather be jumping on board with that trend, so I'm not doing a catch-up compared to my competitors later on.
Great, very, very interesting. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. So those people who voted B and C, I guess, get ready for a change. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the Q&A section. And I want to thank everybody in the audience. The questions have really been flooding in. So it's so great to see how excited people are to talk about this. So I'm going to dive right into it here, Matt. When traveling, are the calls made over a data connection or the voice network?
That's a great question. So it depends on what you're using. You know, if you're using a soft phone, whether it's on a desktop, tablet, or a mobile phone, so you're using the soft phone only, soft phones use data. And so it's going to be using either the data from, say, LTE, or it's using the data from Wi-Fi, or if it's connected to a fixed wired connection like an Ethernet jack, it's going to be using data. So if you are traveling, you could be using a hotel's Wi-Fi, maybe you're using roaming data in that sense. So if data consumption is important to your business, you would actually want to be using your standard voice button on your phone. So what I call the green button on, say, an iPhone or an Android. Using that green button the way you make and receive your calls on a standard phone call, when you use that, it's not using data at all. Whether you're in Canada or you're traveling abroad, if you're traveling abroad, it will be roaming minutes of voice minutes, but those are charged at a much different rate and they're much more affordable than roaming data packets or megabytes are. So you get the flexibility of using either the voice network or the data network with Unison. With other technology, you're always using data only, and it's using up a lot of data because it's forcing you to use soft phones, and it also uses up a lot of your battery on your phone as well. Meanwhile, if you don't need a soft phone, you're not using data and you're not using your battery up as much.
Great, and a few people asked this next question. It's, do I have to be a Rogers Mobile customer to use Unison?
You don't. So it depends on which functions you want. I talked earlier, we have 3 different users. We have the mobile user, we have a hybrid user, and we have an office user. The mobile user must be a Rogers Mobile subscriber on one of our business plans because this is a business service. A hybrid user must also be using Rogers Mobility for your business because we're using your mobile phone number and it's integrated in our mobile network. The office user does not have mobility at all. So they might not be a mobile subscriber with any carrier, or maybe you're using the competition. Doesn't matter the scenario. That's more of your traditional cloud or hosted PBX type user. And so we can support users whether they're with Rogers or they're not, but all of the Unison services make you a Rogers customer. It's just whether you're using mobility or not will determine if you're going to be mobile, hybrid, or office. So we can work with you on a roadmap. If you're not a Rogers Wireless customer today, we can get you started on Unison, and then when you want to move over to Rogers Wireless, we can add the mobile and hybrid components to your service offering. If you're already a Rogers Wireless subscriber or you'd like to become one, you can take advantage of the full power of all of what Unison has to offer.
Great. And a question came in here, and this one means a lot to me too, is because, you know, I'm used to listening to on-hold music when I call companies. Can you customize the on-hold music with Unison?
Yeah, you can customize your on-hold music. The administrator sets what you want as the on-hold music. Some businesses like to put on-hold music as marketing messages. Others like to have it as their own, you know, just standard music. Just always remember, anytime you're using any greetings, whether it's for a voicemail, an auto attendant, on hold, or anything else, you must have the copyright to any of the content that you're using. So you can't be using another artist's work without having their express consent for that. So you as an end user or company are responsible to ensure you have copyright access.
Great, and this came up here, and this is a good one. So I'm looking into moving to a mobile workforce. What are the top things I need to take into consideration as we embark on this?
That's an amazing question. So a number of things that you need to really understand, or where to start really, would be what is your current environment today, and what is it that you want to keep, and what would you like to change? What is it that's missing or not working? And really understand some of those subtle nuances. And don't think about it in terms of features and functions, but think about what is the outcomes you're trying to drive. So if someone calls your business, perhaps it's a customer, what experience do you want your customer to have? And then you start think through that experience of what you want your customer to have, and then we can start figuring out, well, how do we support that in a different way with mobility? You have to also understand what are the different demographics within your workforce. You know, we all have employees that are of different age groups, of different levels of technology understanding. We have different individuals that have different physical or mental abilities as well that we need to be able to support. So it's really important to provide the tools and technology that's going to enable each of those different workers to be the most productive. Otherwise, you could really risk impacting someone's own personal productivity or making them frustrated, or you get into the abandonment I talked about earlier. So I would say thinking about those two things are the most important. One is the experiences and the outcomes you're trying to drive, and the other one is around the different types of workers and then mapping the technology to them or giving them the choice to self-select the technology that is going to make them most effective in their workday.
Great, that makes a lot of sense. And I want to thank everybody for all the amazing questions coming in. They are coming in fast and furious now. And just know that in the event we don't get to your question right now because we are on a schedule here, rest assured we will do our best to follow up with you. But keeping the momentum going here, the pricing for Unison, is it done per user? A few people are asking about that.
Yeah, traditionally when you're getting into cloud services, you're moving from a CapEx model to an OpEx model because you're no longer procuring and owning and managing infrastructure and hardware and licensing. Normally in a traditional market or a service offering, you would have to buy everything up front and then you might pay a support agreement. When you move to cloud offerings, whether it's cloud computing or it's cloud software or it's some other thing or cloud communications, you're buying it as a service and you pay for that on a monthly basis as a subscription. The way we've done it for Unison, it's done on a per employee basis or per user. So it scales to your workforce. You don't need to buy in advance of where your company is going to be in 2 or 3 or 5 years from now. If you have 100 employees today, you would buy it for your 100 employees. If a year from now you hire 4 more employees, you just have to add the service for those additional 4 more people. You don't need to worry about recontracting and everything else. You would just add on to what you've got. So it allows the flexibility and scalability that you would expect out of cloud, and it allows you the control on your operating cost because you now know the cost of adding an employee for all of their communication services, so you can put that in your business models and your P&L when you're looking at increasing your headcount. And it allows you to ensure that you're not wasting money on technology for employees that aren't in your business yet because it's fully scalable to support any size of business across this country.
Great, and I can tell you, when you were in the dual personas part of the presentation, people got really excited about it, and a lot of questions came in. One person here was asking, in order for dual personas to work, do both of the phone numbers need to be with Rogers?
So the way it works, and why don't I actually pull up the soft phone and I'll show you guys. So I'm going to go to the actual self-serve application part of it. So if you're still looking at your screen, you can see I've got the show my numbers. I've got my mobile number showing right here. And so this user that I'm logged into has both a mobile number and a dual persona number. In order for this service to work, the mobile number is a Rogers wireless phone number now. And what we do is, in order to keep your phone number active, we will port in that old desk phone or business line phone number. And or if you want to just add the dual persona feature, we can give you a brand new phone number from across the country. It doesn't matter where, anywhere we serve mobility, we'll give you that phone number. And so both phone numbers live in the Rogers network. You're not paying extra for the phone number. You're not paying extra for the feature. It's inclusive in your license cost for Unison on a per employee basis. And then once you've got both phone numbers, you can change which one you're going to be using for your outbound call display, but both phone numbers ring all your phones whenever someone's calling you.
Great, makes a lot of sense. So these days, obviously, security is top of mind for a lot of organizations. And we had someone ask here, can you elaborate more on the TLS encryption when making voice calls from a cell?
Absolutely. So what we've done with Unison is we looked at all of the trends that are happening in security, cybersecurity, mobile security, social media security. There's a lot of security threats that are happening. And rather than having our customers have to worry about it themselves, what we wanted to do is provide our customers with the peace of mind that Rogers is doing what it needs to do to protect your business. Now, we can't secure everything because an employee is still responsible for how they manage their own service, making sure they're not giving passwords to people and making sure they're not leaving devices and technology accessible to others to access. But from a network perspective, what we've done is we've secured it with TLS encryption. And that means if you make a phone call over a 2G network, 3G, voice over LTE, voice over Wi-Fi, over the open internet, or over a private dedicated network like MPLS or private Ethernet, over any network, the call is going to be encrypted from end to end over the Rogers network and delivered over to that portion. And that means that with TLS, it's very difficult for individuals to be able to hack into to listen to that conversation. So if your business handles a lot of very sensitive information, you think about maybe a board of directors call that's happening within your organization, as long as all of those employees, participants are on Rogers Unison, it means that every leg of that call is encrypted with TLS to ensure that it's providing a much greater level of security. Now, if you are not using Unison, for your mobility, but you're a Unison customer, but your mobility is offered by a different service provider, that portion of the call is not being covered because it's not mobile-based call through Unison because we're not controlling the mobile portion of that experience. So I hope that helps clarify.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does. And a few people here actually said they have staff that travel to the U.S. If someone crosses the border, does Unison still work and they could still receive calls and make calls?
You know, Rogers has taken the leading position, I would say globally, on roaming. Our Roam Like Home is one of the most recognized brands now in Canada. And so what we wanted to do with roaming was ensure that we're providing an amazing experience for all of our Unison customers while they're traveling abroad. So you have a number of different options for you. If you bring your cell phone while you're traveling abroad, your roaming would continue just like your roaming package that your business subscribes to. So some businesses use Roam Like Home, some businesses have specific roaming packages. All of that would be part of your standard mobile agreement. Your Unison service would continue, but there's a couple little subtleties that don't work. If you're roaming on another carrier's network, you can't make an outbound extension-based dialed call because that other carrier's network doesn't understand it. So an example, if you're in the US, AT&T's network is not Unison, it's just a mobile network, but you can make and receive calls as standard, but you can't make an extension call from the AT&T network back to Canada, but people can extension dial you and your phone will ring. You also can't manipulate your outbound call display for with your dual persona. Only your mobile phone number will display coming from a call that you're placing while you're roaming because, again, the other carrier doesn't understand what dual persona is for the outbound phone call. So those are just some of the subtleties if you're using the carrier network. Now, if you're actually using Wi-Fi, whether it's voice over Wi-Fi on your iPhone or supported Android device, or you're using a soft phone and you're using Wi-Fi or an IP network of some sort, all of the Unison features and functions and call displays and everything else work as usual because it appears like an IP call, and we treat those the same whether you're in Canada or you're abroad.
Great. And one person here is asking about call transferring. If I'm taking a call on my mobile phone, can I transfer that call to a colleague?
So mobile phones do not support call transfer at this time, even though we would love to have Apple and Google Android to work with us on developing call transfer into the operating system of a mobile phone. So if you receive a call on your mobile phone and you need to transfer it, what you would actually do is pull the call over to your soft phone or your IP phone and then transfer it from there. So it's not a defect of the Unison service, it's because the actual operating system on the physical hardware device doesn't support call transfer at this time, but hopefully in the future it will do it. But pulling the call over, since it's a seamless experience, you can then initiate the call transfer from the soft phone or IP phone.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I have a few people here asking, how do I get a demo? What do I do next? So for the people that are sort of interested in what we're saying here and they want to learn more and make sure this is right for them, what are the next steps? How do they get started? Where do we go from here?
That's a great question. There's a couple different ways that you can actually learn more. One is, and you've got it here up on your screen, you can go to rogers.com/unison. We've got some information for small business as well as for our more enterprise level customers. We've got amazing video assets where you can learn more. You can also fill in the lead form and you can have a sales rep call you back if you don't have a sales rep today. If you do have a sales rep, whether it's through one of our dealer partners or it's one of our dedicated sales reps as well, you can reach out to that sales rep and they will help arrange getting a demo. In fact, we are shipping out all of our demo kits right now. Some went yesterday, others went today, and you can arrange for that demo. You can also, on the website, whether on the small business page or the enterprise page, there's a toll-free number. You can call the phone number and you can speak to a Rogers representative who will ensure if they don't know Unison, they'll put you in touch with the right person who knows Unison. So that way, if you want to speak to someone today about it. So there's a number of different ways.
Fantastic. And as I keep my eye on the clock here, we have used up our hour. I want to thank everybody for attending. I want to thank everybody for all the amazing questions. Matthew, I want to thank you for the great presentation. Clearly lots of excitement around Rogers Unison, which is great to see. I do want to remind everybody that as we close out this webinar, a survey will appear on your screen. We would love to get your feedback. And if you keep an eye on your inbox, you will be getting a link next week to the on-demand recording of this so you can rewatch it and share it with your colleagues as well. So with that, Matthew, thanks again. I hope everybody has an amazing day, and thank you very much for joining today's webinar.